Today on the Freakacast news, the Avengers have easily crossed the $1 billion mark, earning over $1,036,000,000. As of right now, most likely they are currently still gaining momentum and speed, as they are one of the best movies out this summer yet, only because The Dark Knight Rises hasn't come out yet. It is, however, now the 13th highest grossing film of all time, and, well, I hope it keeps climbing to give The Dark Knight Rises a higher bar to reach. In other news, the Lord of the Rings Lego sets are now available to purchase. You can either get them from Lego.com or by visiting your local retailer. Also, in conjunction with The Dark Knight Rises, they have announced that they are going to do a tie-in with Mountain Dew. And I thought this was particularly interesting. Cans of the soda that include a bat signal that will reveal when the soda is cold. Also, there was recently an extended Amazing Spider-Man preview. It was about 4 minutes long, and basically, for the most part, it was the recent trailer, but it had a previous part in the beginning that actually showed a little scene between Spider-Man trying to save a young boy, and it was kind of neat because Spider-Man takes his mask off because the kid's afraid of him. He doesn't know who he is. So he's like, hey, I'm just a guy. And he gives the kid the mask and he says, put the mask on, it'll make you strong. And the kid's, it's a burning vehicle as he's trying to save the kid from him. I thought it was a really, really cool moment to show that he's trying to enable this kid to do the same thing he has by having the mask on. It gives you this power. At least it kind of reminds me of the feather from Dumbo and helping him to fly. It's that thing that helps you have the confidence you need to do what you need to do.
That motivator, if you will.
Exactly. Also, Kuso, the site that we mentioned last time, where you can upload your own Lego creations and hopefully get them approved by Lego and actually be turned into Lego sets, Zelda has reached 10,000 supporters.
Woo!
Western Town has also reached 10,000 supporters, but they've already done that lineup, so that would not surprise me if they did that. More importantly, and what I find much more interesting, is they have recently the Back to the Future set that somebody made. It's basically the DeLorean with Marty and Doc Brown has reached 10,000 supporters. So we're looking forward to that, and we'll keep you posted if any other ideas come along and reach the 10,000 supporters. I will also say somebody did a Firefly set, the actual Serenity ship, and unfortunately Lego had to turn that down basically for the same reason it turned down the Shaun of the Dead one. It does not fit their target market.
From what I read on their site, they don't like things that involve alcohol of any sort. They don't like military things.
Right.
So,
in fact, the military is a big reason why it's weird. They do Star Wars, but that's also kid-friendly, and it reaches a market that is in line with what their already target market is.
Right. So my initial support of the Newgrounds Lego tank is probably not going to happen because it's a tank.
Exactly.
But oddly enough, they haven't said much because there's one of the top ones that they're going for, like one of the ones that are still have a high number but haven't reached the 10,000 yet, is Space Marines.
Right.
So I don't know, would that count as military? It's in space, but it's got the word Marines in it.
I think it depends on how the line would actually be set up. For instance, Star Wars is basically Space Marines. You have the clones, you have tanks, you have vehicles and that sort of thing. That's a little harder to say. When you get into space and they can do the science fiction aspect, it really depends on how they design the line. If Lego said, hey, we like the idea of military in space, but let's kidify it, that could work.
Right.
Not make it terribly violent, but still, laser guns is in Star Wars, so it would translate very easily to Space Marine.
Anyway, on a personal note, on the ones that have gotten their mark, if Lego decides, hey, let's do it, because they have to get licensing for a couple of these things, namely the DeLorean,
right,
and Zelda, of the two, as a gamer, a long-time gamer, not a hardcore one, but as a gamer who grew up with the Legend of Zelda series, I would have to buy a set just out of principle if they make them.
I would have to buy a set as well, just to have that Lego Link.
Because, I have been longing, since I was a kid, for video game Legos. I mentioned it before. That was the thing I've been wanting to have,
right,
and never got. I mean, certainly not with a burning passion that you had for Batman Lego.
Right.
But still in the sense of, man, that would have been cool.
Well, unfortunately with Lego sets, it's really tricky to design a set that has a playability factor and a build factor.
With Zelda, you can do it, though, because there's castles to build, there's layers to build.
There's the dungeons where you have to get the Triforce. There's the different characters you
Plus,
can do.
there's different scenarios. Like, even for smaller sets, you have them get to a big treasure chest.
Right.
You know, have them kill have them fight a monster.
Right.
And plus, Link himself has plenty of Lego uses. He's got bombs he can throw. He's got arrows he can use. He's got the swords.
There's enough, and it's a medieval setting, so it certainly would translate well. Shoot, if they're going to do Lord of the Rings sets, they should easily be able to do Zelda. Although, I don't think that if the Lord of the Rings lineup becomes popular and is profitable, you're not going to see Zelda till after that's when it's done.
Well, naturally. I mean, this year they have The Hobbit this year, so naturally they want the focus on, hey, we've got Lord of the Rings sets, and by the way, here's the movie The Hobbit.
Right.
Coming out later this year.
And so that'll generate interest. But
plus, I'm sure it'll take time to get the licensing.
Oh, yes. But, there's no telling. I mean, they've had the Star Wars license since 1999.
This is true,
so
but who knows how long it took to actually get that deal.
Oh, very true. That took a number of years. That was actually one of the things they were pining to have for many years. So,
also on an amusing, interesting note.
Okay. You
know what else is in the top running?
What's that?
With over 5,000. I think they've got at least 6,000.
What's that?
My Little Pony. Has well over 6,000 supporters for My Little Pony Lego sets.
You know what?
And the thing is, I say go for it.
I might have to buy one with Rainbow Dash just out of principle. I'm not going to go for a pony, but I got to say that episode with the Mare-do-Well or whatever, the Batman Darkwing Duck inspired one, I liked that episode. I liked the way they did use the characters there, so I might have to get a Rainbow Dash one just out of principle.
And again, that would work for kid Legos.
It would, actually. And you know what, actually...
And the thing is, it makes sense because, one, it's a popular show. They still have to license it from Hasbro. But if you want kid-friendly, you can't get any more than that.
Well, not only that, but that also reaches a market that's always been very difficult for Lego to reach, which is the female audience. Granted, you're going to have, oddly enough, a male population that's going to want this stuff. Because
the bronies.
The bronies, yeah. So that's actually going to... But Lego's probably not aware of that market.
Oh, yes, they are.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay.
Because when I looked at that site and just glanced, because as I noticed, again, we're plugging the site because Matt loves Legos, and I've gone there because Matt has his own sets up.
Right, and I have the Ice Castle up.
All right, so I just clicked...
I'm hoping to have 10 supporters by now.
You do.
Okay.
You have double digits.
Good. Okay.
Anyway, there's a spot where it says, comments from Lego.
Right.
And they commented on the My Little Pony stuff, and they said they're well aware of the show's popularity.
Well, that's good.
And they just said the only issue they could see in the future is licensing. They said other than that, they're looking forward to it.
That's actually really good. I see. Go for it, Lego. Because, like I said, it brings in...
So the fact that the company itself said, yeah, we're well aware of the show's popularity, which also means, yeah, we're well aware of the fact that there's bronies.
Right.
Who are loving this show to death.
Which means, like I said, you tap into that female audience they're always struggling to get. They do have their friends lineup, which is actually looks pretty good. They have minifigures. They're about minifigure size, but they look kind of like dolls. Mm-hmm. But they have sets like one's a convertible, and I'm looking at and there's like a house, kind of like the dollhouse setting, but you build it. From what I've seen over the years of Lego's attempt at trying to draw in the female audience, I think this is so far is their best attempt. Even to the point is where I'm looking at some of these going, wow, it's got some nice parts. So when you have that, and that's like I said, trying to design a Lego set that has the playability factor that your target market wants, as well as the build factor, that's a tough thing to do. So yeah, if they did My Little Pony, shoot, yeah, I'd go for it. So bring it on, because if it's something that draws in the audience, and Lego can not only, obviously they want to make money, it's a business, but it's something that they can tap into a market that they've never been able to tap in before, of course they're going to want to do it. That would make so much sense.
And plus, if it's something's popular, go for it.
Yeah, especially with the show being popular enough, with a wider variety of audience members than we previously thought it would.
Mm-hmm.
So... But that will do it for the Freakacast Newsreel this episode. Nickelodeon.
All the kids sing.
Nickelodeon. And welcome to the Freakacast.
The Freakacast. I am Andrew Felson. And that's Sing Along Matt.
I like that. Sing along, Matt. It's got a nice ring to it. I was totally not expecting that, but that's good. So we are...
The Freakacast.
No kidding.
And we're going to talk about
What's
Nick
your name?
Toons. I already said that.
Oh, I missed that. I wasn't paying
You were
attention.
too busy singing. Sing along.
Hi, I'm Matthew Puetz, if you haven't figured it out by now. And I'm also... Oh, look at the kitty.
Off to a great start, aren't we, folks? Will we stay on topic today? Who knows?
What's our topic? We have a topic?
Nick Toons!
Oh yeah, Nick Toons!
Only on Nick Toons. On Nickelodeon. Yeah! Oh, those were the days when Nickelodeon was good.
I know, I miss those days. Now you just kind of flip through and you're like, oh, it's more crap. Let me keep going.
You know, here's a glimmer of something good, and then grumble.
Right now, the only thing on they have good, that I perceive as good, is the Penguins of Madagascar. That's pretty much it.
You know, SpongeBob on a good day.
Like I said,
It
Penguins of
varies.
Madagascar.
It varies. There are some good SpongeBob episodes, and then some not so good SpongeBob
Yeah, I guess it just
episodes.
depends on the episode. I have seen one or two, and I guess it's
But
just one
again,
or two
you
that I've seen
know,
that-
we are grown men judging children's cartoon programming, so who
But
can
they're
say?
written by adults, so we have every right to judge these.
You know, but also in our defense, some of these new cartoons, yeah, they're for kids, but they also play to the adult crowd, so
Very true. Which is
writing.
part of the reason I like the Penguins of Madagascar. It does feel like something I can sit as an adult, and I get some enjoyment out of it, because I understand the jokes they're going for and that sort of thing.
Right. But we're going back to the heyday of
Yes, to the origin, if you will, of Nick Toons.
the early 90s, which we'll get to at
And
first.
if you're going to start with an origin,
Yes,
it makes sense to start when you're very young.
indeed. But
For
before
instance...
before we get to...
Oh, yeah,
It's an
sorry.
excellent segue. We'll do this real quick, since I know
Okay.
people are like, oh, it's too much talking at the beginning. I don't know if people are saying that or not, but I feel that way sometimes.
I don't really understand how you can be upset with somebody for too much talking on a podcast.
This is true, but it's more of too much talking about boring stuff and not getting to the good stuff.
Okay, anyway.
So the website you can find us on is felson1.wordpress.com. That is AFELSON1.wordpress.com. We are also on iTunes and Stitcher.
Stitcher!
For iTunes and Stitcher, you'll find us quicker under Andrew's brain. iTunes, I'm sure you know how to use by now. If not, well, join the 2000.
If not, get out of your cave.
And Stitcher is a app for your phone or mobile device or tablet, whatever you want to use.
Yes.
And it is a podcast app, so not only are we on there, but many podcasts, and they link like ones together so you can find us and stuff that relate to us.
Yes, very true. Also, you can find us on Facebook at the Freakacast or under Freak Out Entertainment with the... I think we still have the Freakazoid logo on there.
No, we have the Freakacast.
Oh, that's right. We have the Freakacast logo on there.
By the way, not to cut you off, but as a note,
Okay.
for iTunes and Stitcher, only the newer episodes are kind of there. The older ones kind of get taken off. But if you go to the WordPress site, all the episodes are there, so you can look at all our past episodes.
Right. And for some reason, if iTunes download isn't working, you can go straight to the website and get the episodes right there.
You know, just right-click to save or just hit them on, and they'll eventually play. It's all free.
Right. Because
the
we're
app-
all about free stuff.
Right, so the app is free, iTunes is free, the WordPress site is free, Facebook is free.
Speaking of free, we're still waiting on a Squampster drawing to give somebody a free T-shirt.
You know, I think we need to do a video for that. Because
we
we've
did.
gotten, over 1,000 views for our Freakacast video.
I know. I'm quite impressed. It was a project we decided that we love our theme song so much we need a video for it.
Right, and that song was done by songstowearpantsto.com.
Songs2wearpants2.com. Woo!
So-
I wasn't ready with the sound.
That's fine. So again, it's on YouTube for the video, and it's the Freakacast theme.
Yeah.
You'll find it
Just
there.
type in the Freakacast and you'll find it immediately.
Right, and by the way, since we like giving stuff away for free, that song is linked both in the video, on our podcast, and on Songs Where Pants Do. It is a free download, so if you
Yeah.
like the song even a little bit, you can download it for free.
Right. Download that, and then, you never know. You might like some other songs he's done, like the song with the pants, where it's the zippers and all the other stuff.
Right, or, Pink Fluffy Unicorn.
Everyone's dancing on rainbows.
And there's tons of other stuff. Like there's a sad, sad toaster made of glass. Muffin Puffin, one of my favorites. Muffin Puffin, Muffin Puffin. He also does a really awesome cover of Still Alive from Portal.
Yeah, he does. Actually, I saw that one. I was like, wow, this is... I mean, I'm not a big gamer, but I actually liked the song. It was done well. And also, don't forget to check out, or at least pass the word along, to Matthew's Adventure Costumes. You can find on Facebook, also adventurecostumes.wordpress.com. And I also have the link on both the Facebook page and my website to the Aurora Cineplex, which you can find their Facebook page and their website as well.
Now, that last one kind of only applies if you're in the Roswell area of Georgia.
Yeah.
But hey, it's a nice establishment. We like it quite a bit. So visit if you
Free
can.
refills on drinks.
Free refills on drinks, free
Cheaper
refills
movies.
on popcorn, cheaper movies, excellent service.
And they give you a mint at the end of your show.
Which is just nice and classy.
It is. It's one fine mint.
Hey, Freakazoid, you want to go out for a mint?
Do I?
Let's go to the Aurora, then. We'll give you one after the show.
Awesome.
You know how cool it would be to see Freakazoid on the big screen? That would
Dude,
be awesome.
I've been saying that for years.
Just to play an episode on it would be great.
I got to talk to my friend about that.
You think they could do that?
I don't know. I'll have to
Can modern do the projectors play DVDs?
I don't know. I guess it would depend on if it's a digital projector or not. I know that they make projectors that can play a DVD.
True. We'll have to find out.
Yeah.
I'm sure
we must investigate this.
I'm sure they'll be like, no, why would we do that? Like, just for us. Private screening. Just so we can see it on there.
We'll pay you $10. Just let us watch Freakazoid on the big screen.
Oh, if they did that, imagine the Batman animated series on the big screen.
Dude.
Just think of the big screen, the surround sound quality.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
That would be awesome. And by that point, we'll have our live-action animated intro done.
Let's hope so.
Well.
Anyway, and, just on that note, BatmanOnFilm.com,
yes.
Since Dark Knight Rises is so close.
Less than, I think we have, I believe today and counting, it's 63 days.
So there's that, and I think the other one is
At the point that I'm saying, probably by the point this is released, it's going to be less than 50 days or so.
But who's counting, really? And of course, before that...
Not me.
And of course, before that, Spider-Man's coming out soon.
Right, July 3rd.
So I'm looking forward to that as well. And so go to those sites for your updates, and please, for the love of everything, don't look at spoilers, because why bother?
Right.
And go to newgrounds.com, again, free stuff.
Free stuff that I haven't been there in quite a while, but it's always been a good place to find just really interesting animations people do, and like you're able to find free songs you can use for any kind of product, or just for the sake of listening to it, just for something different.
So, now that all that's out of the way, to the original, to the origin,
to the origin,
to the beginning,
to the
birth.
It's almost like we planned it.
But we never plan anything. Haven't you learned?
No, I haven't actually. And generally speaking, after birth, you start to grow and learn some things, and you start to develop a language, if you will. We call it baby speak. And why on earth would we be talking about baby speak? We're talking, of course, of Rugrats. The original Nicktoon that came out in...
1991?
1991. Which, oddly enough, was the same year my brother was born. So this show holds a little bit extra significance for me just because of that.
Nice.
Yes, Andrew, I'm plugging you on our podcast.
Hi, Andrew. Not me, but his brother. Don't worry, it gets confusing around here, too.
Not to me.
That's because you're weird.
That's because I know way too many Andrews, but that's not the point. Anyway, Rugrats, the original Nicktoon. It was created by Arlene Klasky, Gabor Ksupo, and Paul Germain. Not really much info on how they came up with the idea of the show, but I would guess, because of the time period at which the show came on, you've got Disney Afternoon is doing well. Warner Brothers Animation, they're gearing up. They're getting ready to release Batman the Animated Series. And they're getting ready to get into Animaniacs, or at least Tiny Toons, I think, at that point. So, you've got Disney, you've got Warner Brothers, and you've got Nickelodeon. They're all kind of saying, they're taking notice of the popularity of the Disney shows. You're saying, hey, we need to come up with an animated show for kids.
Well, this was we mentioned this during the Warner Brothers podcast. This was during the time where there was the so-called animation renaissance, where there was just a big revival of really high-quality animated shows.
Right.
And this is a part of it, because I'm sure word was going around, hey, Disney's doing really well. They've got some really good stuff going. Yeah. Hey, Warner Brothers, they're cooking they've got some really great stuff in the works. Nickelodeon, hey, let's get some studios and get to work on this. We got to stay with it, because if we don't, we're sunk. Right. But also, we're Nickelodeon. We're the kids' network. Yeah. We need stuff of our own.
Right. Especially an animated show. Mm-hmm. So they originally came up with the idea of Rugrats. And, well, it's like the term sounds. They're Rugrats. They're toddlers. They're about...
Not actual rats, but human babies.
Yes, human babies. Let's be clear, these are actually humans. I don't think there were actually at any point any animals. Certainly not any animals that talked. From my recollection.
Not in, their real world, in dream sequences and things of that nature, but there are animals, like the dog Spike.
Oh, that's right. I was going to say the dog Spike.
And Reptar.
We'll get to that.
We'll get to him.
We'll get to Reptar. But anyway, so it's a group of toddlers, and you've got Tommy Pickles, his annoying older cousin, Angelica, Chucky Finster, his friend who's got red hair, glasses, and has a snot problem. Or at least that's how I always interpreted the character, as not being able to breathe through his nose. It bugged the crap out of me. Because I have a hard time listening to people talk when they can't breathe through their nose. It's just, I don't know why.
It's a trait, some kids have allergies.
Yeah. Well, no, but it didn't bother me at the time, but it was just one of those things I remember distinctly about the character. And then also you have the twins, Phil and Lil DeVille. Say that 3 times fast.
I never knew their last names.
But I think clearly they were going for an alliteration feel there, which makes sense. But the show didn't need a big premise like some of the Disney shows, but it had a premise that worked, and it was okay. Let's make a show about toddlers, but let's have them interact with each other, and we'll see the world from their point of view. And so these mundane tasks like going to the kitchen to
open the
refrigerator became like watching an Indiana Jones movie sort of thing.
Because they got to break out of their cribs or their
well, they always have a playpen, and so and I think honestly what gave that show, for me at least, the quality that I enjoyed was how it was shot. I of course realized at the time, it's shot this way and this sort of thing, but they did it in a way that, just like you said, just breaking out of the crib or the playpen. They made a big deal of that every episode.
Of course, it's one of those things where, hey, these are kids who are still adapting to the world. They're trying to understand the world around them.
Right.
So this is how they perceive things, and their interaction with it and their exploration of this world that they're in kind of makes you get immersed into it. Because you can also kind of relate to it in the back of your mind going, there was a time when the world held so much wonder, and it still does to a sense, where you want to explore and you want to just go out and do stuff.
Right.
So that sense of adventure at a young age.
And they capitalized on that really, really well. That was one of the things I always enjoyed about that show.
Because when you're, 1, 2 years old, just going out to the car with your parents, that's an adventure of some sort, because you don't know where you're going. You just know you're going out somewhere.
It's very true. Or even going outside can be an adventure.
Yeah.
But, you see, you had your main cast was Tommy, Chucky, Phil and Lil. And, they did have the dog Spike with them. And you also had the parents. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm going off of memory here. You had Drew Pickles was Tommy's dad?
He was Angelica's dad.
Okay, so that was Stu Pickles was Tommy's dad.
Yes.
Okay, I want to make sure I remember that. I can't remember Tommy's mom's name, though.
Oh, I remember. It's the same name as Dexter's sister.
Dee Dee?
Dee Dee.
Okay, makes sense. Drew, Stu, and Dee Dee. That's what it was. Okay.
I don't remember Angelica's mom's name, though. She wasn't there as much.
She wasn't there. She was there, I think, once or twice that I remember.
She was the businesswoman always on the go.
And Angelica was the brat.
Yeah.
The bratty 3-year-old who manipulated the toddlers. She was
and the adults.
And the adults as well. She was a 3-year-old.
And a spoiled one at that.
Yeah. I didn't like her. But what's the point?
That was the point.
I was going to say, that was the point. The point was, she was basically the villain of the show. which is part of the reason it works so well. But yeah, oddly enough, even at that, because I was, 9 years old, I guess, when that came out. Even at that age, I got a kick out of, the grandpa character and Stu and his inventions and stuff like that. So I got a kick out of even the adult characters just as much as the kid characters. And like I said, my brother was born at the same time the show came out, so I was able to, my brother was kind of like Tommy to me. So what's your experience with the show?
I mean, positive. I certainly remember watching it quite a bit when it was on.
Anything about the show stick out in your mind?
I do remember there was, since, you just kind of said, oh, and Stu's inventions, I'm like, yeah, there was a couple weird ones. He had he made a doll that was a clown, and of course clowns are scary.
Yeah.
So, and this clown kept malfunctioning and going crazy, but the adults never saw it, so the kids were trying to get rid of him and kept showing back up.
Right. And of course the kids are getting more and more scared of the clown.
Right. And also Chucky Finster was deathly afraid of clowns.
So you could relate to him on that level.
I think everybody could.
Yeah, well, not the deathly afraid, but certainly the afraid of clowns.
Yeah, but also
clowns never scared me, so it was not a problem.
Whatever. But also there was one episode where that kind of always that's every kid's thing right there, where they had the whole episode revolved around a cardboard box that they were playing in, making pretend in. And,
yes.
This box carried some super expensive toy that Stu was trying to put together.
Right.
And then he glances outside and notices they're playing with the box. And then comes to the realization, this is going to be my new toy. And so he markets a box as his new brand.
But you know what? That's just because he's a dad. And honestly, as I've said before, shoot, me and my brother, we used to have the most fun. Anytime we got a new appliance, I got excited because we got a big box. And there's so much you can do with that.
Of course. And that's kind of the thing where, the joke has been out since we've had giant cardboard boxes where, gee, the kid has more fun with the box than the toy.
Yeah. So, the thing is, we know that now as adults. We say, okay, with our kids, I'm not going to buy him toys. I'm going to get him a box. It's got to be a big one, though. It can't be a little one. It's got to be a big box.
But even shoe boxes have uses.
Yeah.
How are we going to make dioramas without them?
Like I said, big box. I hate dioramas. Well, for me, it was always something that's like, oh, I have to make a diorama for class. I hate this. It's stupid. There's no moving parts. It doesn't do anything. It just sits there. I can't play with it.
There were no moving parts if you didn't know how to make moving parts.
That's not the point. The point is it was small and I couldn't play with it.
You just weren't creative enough.
Well, that was also not my thing. I was the kind of kid where when we got a big box, okay, I would cut open a doorway for a drawbridge, hook string to it to make, so you pull it closed, and I would take toilet paper tubes and make the little turrets for the castle. I
remember it was probably first grade, we had to make a pet rock in art class. So
well, this was the late '80s, so I can completely understand.
So mold that of clay in any shape you want. Give it some facial features if you can. Then paint it.
Right.
And then once you're done with your rock, you got to give it a home.
Right.
So you make a shoebox home. So that's what I did. And I actually had moving parts on it.
Oh, okay.
I think I was able to make it so that a window opened and closed. I had a door that opened and closed.
Nice.
Nothing super advanced because
right.
I was in first grade.
Right.
But was there, and I held on to that rock for a while. I don't have it anymore, but so I vividly remember I had a pet rock that I made.
Well, the nice thing about a pet rock,
it never runs away.
It doesn't make a mess. Doesn't run away. You don't have to feed it. You don't have to worry about it dying. It's always there.
And it's a fine weapon. Don't try that at home, kids. I'm kidding. About it being a weapon. Not the don't try it at home part. Anyway, how about for you, sir? Any super fond memories of Rugrats?
I just remember watching it with my family, actually. It was one of those things where, because it came on early Sunday, it was either early Saturday or early Sunday morning. I remember, oddly enough, my parents enjoying it with me. Like I said, my brother was, he was within a year old when it first came out, so he's, there in the room and kind of doing his thing, and I was just, sitting there watching. And honestly, I think for me, just being able to watch a show that saw the world through that creative imagination, the way I saw the world at that age, I thought was really, really neat. And I had never seen a show like that before. So I really enjoyed that.
And speaking of which, the fact that your whole family can watch it, that's an important note for this show. Keep an eye on that.
Yes.
We'll get to that topic at a later time.
Yes. Keep that of note. That's an important plot point.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, couple things of note. One, the show ran from, like we said, it started in 91. It didn't stop until 2004.
Looks like it has 154 episodes.
That's just on DVD.
Aha.
That's not all the episodes that was made. That's just all the episodes I could find that were listed as being on DVD. So it has at least 154 episodes. From 95 to 2000, it was rated It was the highest rated show on Nickelodeon. Not animated show in general.
I can believe it.
I can believe it too, especially since the stuff that was starting to come about at that time. The interesting thing of note, especially about that show being a Nickelodeon show, we talked about, with Disney and Warner Brothers and Nickelodeon, Steven Spielberg, who was, responsible for all the Warner Brothers cartoons we love, really liked Rugrats. He's like, this is the Peanuts of our time. Translating of saying, hey, this was something that worked really well a long time ago, and they've got kind of a newer thing of that, and it's got the same...
Like same vibe?
Yeah, same vibe. That's a good way to say it. It's got that same kind of vibe to it, and I think it's got Steven Spielberg's stamp of approval.
And he has nothing to do with it.
Yeah, you can't, but exactly, he has nothing to do with it, but he's got his stamp of approval. That's high praise.
Mm-hmm. Plus, it's one of those things where, when you look at some of the stuff that's around at the time, I wouldn't say that it was going downhill in terms of quality, but it's like, right. Some of them weren't as wholesome, I would say, as Rugrats. Like, Batman is a great show. Is it for all the kids of all ages? Maybe not. Some of the issues it tackles maybe a bit too much.
Well, and plus the way the show is handled, it's definitely a more mature kids show.
Right. With Animaniacs, great show. Do all the kids get everything of it? Can relate to everything of it? Maybe not. I mean, certainly there's the idea of, hey, the violence in it, the slapstick, all that.
Certainly, as we have found, that show gets funnier as you get older because you start to understand some of that humor that was there that you didn't understand before.
But you don't have to do any of that for Rugrats. It's simply, here's a show that's entertainment. You don't have to think any deeper into it. Yeah, there's every now and then there's something deeper in it. That there's maybe a joke that's for the adults too, but not nearly as often.
Right. But that's also, it's pretty clear, like I said, we're not really sure on the origin of the show, but it's pretty clear from what we've seen of the show that it was not intended to be for adults. It was intended to be most likely for families, something everyone can watch. Like you said, it was wholesome, and you don't find a lot of stuff like that anymore, just because it's a different time period.
Right. I know I'm skipping ahead, but I know they eventually had a spin-off of the show where it was featured them as older.
I don't know if that was necessarily a spin-off or just a continuation of the episodes.
Because it was a whole different title. It wasn't like Rugrats.
It was like Rugrats Grown Up, Grown Up or something like that.
So I think it was just a different show.
But that came around the late 90s, and I stopped watching it after.
Yeah, I honestly don't remember much of it. I don't think I've even seen any episodes.
I remember seeing, I think, a preview for it, or maybe 5 minutes or something, a couple minutes of an episode, but it's by that point, for me, it had lost its luster. It's I liked the show when it was about them as toddlers experiencing their world for the first time and in the adventures. That's what I liked about it, Not this, we're going to make them, 10 years older and now they have to do all these new problems. No, you're taking away from what we liked about the show. If you want to make him a couple years older, all of a sudden now Tommy, is old enough where he can speak to his parents, and Angelica is like a 6-year-old. There's still some stuff, and she's now, say, a kindergartner, and there's different experiences. That's fine. That would still retain the same vibe that the show had originally and the same mentality.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe in the creator's mind, they were saying there's only so much we can do with this for them at this age. There's more for them to do once they're a little older.
Right.
Because they have more interactions, they've got school to do. They are trying to get relatability.
Right. Oh, definitely.
So if you got kids watching, they can relate to kids going to school.
Right. And that certainly makes sense. Like I said, we didn't really watch the episodes then, so we can't say. But yeah, certainly I do recall seeing the previews for that show. But in addition to that show, as far as the spinoff, they also had a live show on stage, oddly enough. And it was... it was a basic premise of Angelica's trying to scare Chucky, and Chucky has to, being Chucky, figure out a way to overcome his fears, so Tommy helps him and that sort of thing. And it's a live-action Rugrats show. It's not much to explain. But oddly enough, it was well-received. It was split up into 2 40-minute acts, which is pretty standard.
You know what's... I'm just looking ahead here, and we were talking about this before the show, because I couldn't remember a character name. It's right there.
What is?
A somewhat reoccurring character was a girl named Susie. And
Oh,
she
okay.
was a girl about Angelica's age, so about 3 years old, but she was black.
Yeah. Well, that show
Not to really like say, oh, it's a major thing, but she was there. That was just
right.
part of the
And
thing.
I was going to say, actually, to kind of touch up on that, one of the things the show did really well is to incorporate diversity. And not to make a statement or anything, just to be like, hey, let's just be different. Let's just kind of do this in a way that's respectful. Actually, one of the things that people did take notice about the show was that it was one of the few shows to depict observant, identifiably Jewish families. And when I was reading that, I thought, I remember that episode. I remember that was the first show I had seen where they celebrated Hanukkah. Although they said it's Hanukkah. You have to when you say it. I distinctively remember that line.
Well, they had what's kind of neat about the show is the fact that they didn't make a big deal about diversifying it. Because, for example, going back a bit, the fact that Susie was a different color than the other kids, they didn't bat an eye.
Right.
They didn't question it.
Right. It was just
that's a nice statement of the fact that it's not you aren't born a racist.
Right.
Is the fact it's you're taught to be one. So at a baby level, at a kid level, they don't care what color they are. It's another playmate.
It's all a matter of, will you play with me?
Yeah.
That's what people need to have when they get older. Just get rid of it's just a simple idea of, will you play with me?
Right, and also the fact that you have this Jewish family. It's the fact that it's also not only is it a Jewish family, but it's also a cultural family because Stu is a Christian. That's why they had the Christmas episode.
Right.
A Christmas movies, not extended episode, but they also had a Passover episode.
Right, I remember
because
that.
Dee Dee is the Jewish mother.
And I thought that was, the thing is, I remember seeing that and thinking, because I was looking at it, raised Christian, and, especially about 9, 10 years old, I get to learn about Hanukkah. Because I did not come from an area where there were any Jews that I knew of. So for me, it was almost a learning experience of what's this other thing, And I honestly, I don't remember other than the line I mentioned, but obviously they did their job of portraying it in a way that, like you said, it wasn't to be bold statement or anything. It was just, okay, we've got this, and they're going to celebrate it and then move on. It's going to be normal and natural, and we're not going to worry about what people think.
I don't remember the details of it, but I do remember the Passover episode was basically the grandfather, not the one that was the constant, but the Jewish grandfather was telling the story of Passover.
Right.
And so they were depicting the events of Passover, but it was, as the characters imagining themselves in their respective roles.
Right.
So there was obviously certain topics, because I don't remember all of the stories of Passover.
Right.
But certain things they were going to kind of not touch on as much.
Right.
But they were portraying the story that a kid can understand and doing it respectively.
Yeah.
So I felt, that was kind of a good thing on their part.
Oh yeah. Anytime you can, and that's, you kind of mentioned with Batman being a little bit more mature for kids, but I think to an extent this show did something similar. They just handled it in a way that, like you said, it was respectful, but at the same time, a kid could understand. And I think that's the key.
But also in the sense that, they were hitting key points and they were making it so that kids can understand, but they weren't dumbing it down either.
Right. And that's really what makes a good show, is that it's for kids, but it doesn't dumb it down for kids. Which I kind of find SpongeBob does sometimes.
Depends on what they're doing.
Yeah, like I said, sometimes. That's what has made it a little tough for me to watch. But, of all the things that come out of Rugrats, Reptar!
Reptar!
Reptar Bar!
Reptar cereal! Reptar!
Reptar!
Reptar on ice, apparently.
They probably did that too.
It was in the show.
Oh, okay. Reptar on ice!
And of course there was again, weird things to remember. This is just burned in my memory. There was a robotic Reptar that all it would say was, "Halt! I am Reptar! Halt! I am Reptar!"
I do vaguely remember that, actually. Of course, I just remember Reptar. I was like, Reptar, Reptar, Reptar Bar!
It's big, it's mean, it turns your tongue green.
It's Reptar Bar!
Man, I haven't thought of Reptar in ages.
We need to start the Reptar revival.
The Reptar revival. I like it. Forget Dragon Con. Reptar Con.
Oh, yeah. I like that. We could so do that.
Oh, that'd be weird too, though. But hey, whatever.
The Reptar Con. I like that. No, we'd have to title it the Reptar Revival.
Subtitle Prep Tarkon.
Yeah.
But yeah, all in all, good show.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, and I thought this was rather fascinating, I did a little extra searching in on our review, and I found that apparently not only was Rugrats popular to watch, it was popular to play. 23 Rugrats video games were made.
I don't doubt it.
I didn't even know of a single one.
I didn't either. But then again, I probably wouldn't have wanted to play it.
Well, that's true, but I would think if something has, if a property like Rugrat or anything has that many video games made, I would have at least remembered seeing a commercial for it. Something. I don't remember even knowing that a single one existed, and there's 23 that were made over the course of the run of show. I was like, holy cow, that's impressive.
Then again, maybe not. Licensed games have a tendency to
not
hit
do
or
as
miss.
well. Yeah, well,
licensed games, for the general rule, are typically not very good.
And
there are definitely exceptions.
Yeah, Batman Arkham Asylum,
Batman Arkham Asylum, Batman Arkham City, which, by the way, I've just finished Assassin's Creed 2, on to Batman Arkham City. I was going to play it tonight, but got sidetracked.
That's okay. It was a good sidetrack. Well, what do you think is the reason that most licensed games do not do as well?
For the most part, it's there's a sense of greed to them in terms of, let's get them out quick. Who cares about quality and if they even work? So slap the name on it, bank on the popularity, get it out, make a buck.
I gotcha.
That's kind of been the general rule for a lot of licensed games. Now, there has been a trend of it being reverse of that, where they've made some really good licensed games.
Right.
Like Scott Pilgrim was a great game.
Well, and I was going to say also, Scott Pilgrim, but also with Batman Arkham Asylum. But they also took a long time to develop that game because they were taking a different approach.
And there have been some notably good games that have come out that have been based on movies or movie franchises. Like, they just recently made a Back to the Future game, and this has been basically the first Back to the Future game that's been good.
Oh, wow. I didn't even know that they made one. A newer one.
Yeah, it just came out last year.
Have you gotten a chance to play it?
Not yet.
Okay.
It's on my to eventually play list.
Okay.
But there's so many. The Ghostbusters game that came out was a great game.
Very true. And
again, that one took a long time to make. And there's even one game that was actually better than the movie it was based on.
Which one was that?
The Chronicles of Riddick.
Oh, okay.
That game actually ended up being far better than the movie. And I think Vin Diesel did the voice acting for his character, and it ended up being better.
Vin Diesel can act better than himself?
That's impressive. It's just in terms of the quality and story that went into the game actually outshined the movie. So it happens, but unfortunately there's still this sense. Rare. It's not. Thankfully it's not getting as rare as it used to be.
Right.
But I will eventually talk about this at length. But to give a prime example, the E.T. game for Atari.
Right.
That was a prime example of, let's rush it out because we've got it's hot, it's popular, let's get it out there, let's make a bunch because we're no going to make a killing, and then the quality is so bad that no one wants it. They return it, makes a huge video game crash.
Right.
It still happens. There's still plenty of games that you wonder, do they even test play it?
Yeah.
It doesn't even work. Everything is horrible about this. It was clearly made just to make a buck.
Yeah.
It happens still. So it's always
probably less known about now, just because the market is so flooded. Quite honestly.
Well, it's kind of why there's certain sites where, unless you know for a fact it's a great game, look at reviews.
Yeah. You
can't always trust reviews, but if it's a highly negative thing, if it's universally panned, chances are I would either rent it or do a preview, but don't buy it.
Yeah.
It's no longer a buyer's market for games. It's more of a try it out first market for games.
Which I think is how it should be for a lot of things.
But that's neither here nor there, so I think we should...
On to Doug. Another great show that came out actually at the same time. Mm-hmm. Literally, the same year that Rugrats came out in 91, Doug also came out.
Probably within the same month as well.
Oh, yeah, because
there was actually 3 shows that came out right at the same time.
Yeah, and actually, if I recall, I believe Doug aired literally right after Rugrats, or one or the other.
Probably Rugrats first. Yeah. I think Rugrats was their big, let's head it out with this, but also here's something really quirky and original.
Yeah.
As well, to go along with it.
Because I remember watching them literally back to back.
Yeah, I think that was part of it.
So, but I was the same age as Doug when this came out, or closer to the same age at least. He was supposed to be about 11 in the show, and I was like 9 or 10. So
11, 12, middle school age.
Yeah, middle school age, and I was about to go into middle school, so it was close enough where I could kind of relate to the character. Much easier than the kids in Rugrats.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's other reasons that I...
Gee, I wonder why. I could probably take a guess, but we'll get to it.
Actually, you'd be surprised on this one as to how I relate to it.
All right.
But so basically, Doug was one of those shows where the premise is even simpler than Rugrats. This was
on the surface.
Surface, yeah, that's true. Let's make an animated sitcom. That was the premise of Doug.
Mm-hmm.
And oddly enough, it worked. But I think it worked because if you're going to make a sitcom about kids in middle school, there's other stuff that happens that you can work with and that sort of thing. And more importantly, it's the characters that you have. And oddly enough, what is his name? Jim Jenkins, which sounds like a comic book name.
It does.
Stan Lee would be proud of his mom. It's like, you gave him a comic book name. Awesome. Actually, he would say, Excelsior! But at any rate. So he actually wrote, or I think he started with a book called Doug's Got a New Pair of Shoes. It was actually, he was the artist on the book, but also and then he took that concept and created the show. And basically it centers around Doug, his best friend Skeeter, his love interest Patty Mayonnaise, which is one of the reasons I related to the character, because that's about that age where you start getting interested in girls, and then you start realizing, oh, I'm different than other guys, and they don't like me as much, that sort of thing.
I don't think Doug had that problem.
Well,
moving on.
Yes, moving on. Where are we at? His dog, Pork Chop, which is awesome, except I wish my dogs were that awesome.
Yeah, can stand on two legs, can operate heavy machinery.
Actually, just could be intelligent. I'm not asking for much, just be intelligent. You had the constant antagonist, Roger. You had the awesome band, the Nematodes.
It wasn't the Nematodes.
It wasn't?
No. It was the Beats.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. I was confusing it with the mystical beings in the swamp pond area called the Nematodes. Okay. I thought the band was called... This is why I shouldn't have gone off memory. Because I was totally expecting the band to be called the Nematodes and not actually the swamp creatures. I totally forgot about the Beats. But the Beats were awesome, too.
Killer Tofu.
I totally forgot about Killer Tofu, which is probably what it will do to you if you eat it. So I'm not surprised. I mean, it's like cardboard crap.
Come from square.
Yeah, square food. Well, spam will kill you too, probably.
Definitely.
But
super plastic artificial meat.
It's not actually plastic. Although the interesting thing about the characters was you might recognize a couple of these names. You have Billy West do the voice of Doug and Roger. Do you know what else he does the voice of?
What?
He does the voice of Fry on Futurama.
Nice.
Yeah. And I think he also did a voice or two on The Simpsons because it's run by the same guy, Matt Groening, who does The Simpsons. But when I found out, I'm like, holy crap, Fry is Doug? No way!
You couldn't tell he's good.
Yeah, well, that's, like we've said in previous episodes, that's the testament of a good voice actor when you can't tell. Shoot, I mean, just by the fact that he did the same voice for both Doug and Roger. So completely different characters, we can't tell the difference in the show. That's awesome voice acting right there.
I even remember these people's names. You didn't write them down. Doug Funny, Skeeter Valentine.
Skeeter Valentine, Patty Mayonnaise.
His full name was Mosquito. Skeeter for short.
His full name was Mosquito.
Mosquito. Skeeter. That's why it's Skeeter.
Yeah, it's true.
Roger Klutz.
Although, if it's Skeeter, but they don't have a southern accent, I'm not sure if it makes as much sense.
Who cares?
Somebody get these Skeeters out of here.
Who cares?
It's true. It makes it a little funnier, though.
Indeed.
Lost my train of thought now.
Well, it took place in...
Did you happen to see somebody made a video of like a live action Doug episode? I was like, holy crap! I literally totally blew the guy up for Skeeter and everything. It was done really well. I was thoroughly impressed. And how well they
they made Roger Green.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say it wasn't a horribly great production quality, but it was what it needed to be. And you got the impression, and you had all the characters there that you could identify.
And, and they had actual, cartoon-accurate clothing.
Mm-hmm.
Doug looked like Doug.
Yeah, exactly.
Skeeter looked exactly like Skeeter.
There was no saying, oh, I don't know if it's like... No, the characters were the characters. It was clear, which was pretty awesome. Because to be able to pull that off, even at the concept level, is tough. Because you're taking something that's, I've never understood why the characters were different colors.
It's in terms of... Instead of it just being a white and black kind of thing, or a white and Hispanic kind of thing, or all these different denominations, there's different colors.
Makes sense.
And again, this is one of the shows where the fact that no one bats an eye that someone's blue and Roger's green, but Patty Mayonnaise it has more of a tan skin.
Right.
And the fact that no one mentions any of this doesn't come up.
Yeah.
The fact that they're all just intermingling.
Yeah.
It's another nice testament to the fact that hey, you can do that. It can happen. You don't need special classes to get along with people.
No, you don't.
Just get along.
And
people.
It would be nice if can't we all just get along?
Unfortunately, the answer is no.
Well, no. The answer
would be
nice.
Yes.
The answer would be yes if people actually put forth the effort. But we need shows like Doug on the air again to remind people that we can. And that's the problem.
But the fact that it was also subtle was not like, hey, we're making an issue of this. They're all together. It's like no, it's just there.
Right.
That's their statement.
Part of the reason I think also is because the show did not have the longevity that Rugrats had. It's weird. It did go from 91 to 99, but in spurts. It actually went 3 years from 91 to 94, and then I guess they held off for a couple of years and came back in 96 to 99. Mostly because 91 through 94 it was on Nickelodeon, and then the other time it was on Disney, which seems kind of odd, but I guess that would make sense.
Well, here's kind of what happened. I kind of vaguely know a little bit of what was going on. It was in terms of this was a Nickelodeon blunder.
Oh, okay.
Because they chose not to renew it.
Oh.
And not only did they choose not to renew, and this is also why certain things will never go to different networks ever again.
Right.
Is because they just said, okay, well, we're not going to renew your show, and here's your stuff, goodbye.
Right.
And then they went to Disney, and Disney bought the rights to it.
Ah.
And Nickelodeon was like, and then not only did they bought the rights to it, they extended the show, they did all this stuff that Disney does, they even made a movie out of it.
Yeah.
And then Nickelodeon was like, well, geez, we should have done that. Why didn't we keep our characters? Because that was our character. That was original to us. So therefore, no matter how good a show is, even if we cancel it, it'll never go anywhere else. Once we put it on our network, it's never going to go anywhere. Hence why, if stuff that you actually liked that didn't last as long, you'll never see it anywhere else.
Yeah.
Because Nickelodeon's like, no, it's ours. No one's going to capitalize because even if we
even if it's a good idea, even if we made a mistake, we're still going to keep the rights to this, which... I guess on one hand that's a good business practice. At the other hand, it's not, simply because they're not capitalizing on it. But
also the fact that it was kind of foolish of them because obviously there was still enough interest in the character and cartoon to last that much longer.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you're talking a full another 3-4 years. Plus, like you said, they made a live action or
not a live action, but a movie.
But a movie, and they did also have a Doug live show at Disney. Well, at the time it was MGM Studios.
Plus I can honestly say I haven't seen much of the Disney version of Doug, but they ended up, expanding upon the fact that, because the original series kind of ended with them graduating from middle school to high school.
Right.
So they expanded upon that concept of, okay, well, now he's in high school, now he has these issues that he can deal with, and kind of explored the character further and all the concepts further.
Right.
So they actually did quite a bit with it. So the fact that they were able to do all that on such a simple concept was, again, a testament to the fact that Nickelodeon should have kept it.
Oh, yeah, definitely. But then again, hopefully they learned their lesson.
I mean, they did. You know what was also really cool and unique about the show?
What's that?
The fact that we kind of touched on it when we started about it was the fact that nearly all the music was a cappella.
Oh, yeah.
Almost everything, with the exception of the beats.
It was almost like rockapella, which was awesome and really popular at the time. We'll get into that one day.
Where in the
world is Carmen Sandiego? She go from Nashville to Norway to Czechoslovakia and back. I actually knew that one at one point, but I can't remember it now.
More than I did.
Mostly because I'm on the spot. I lost my train of thought now. Oh, but one of the things I loved about the show, and oddly enough, it was not Quailman. That's the obvious one. And quite honestly, the way they did Quailman was not as impressive to me as the way they did Smash Adams. when Doug assumed his persona as Smash Adams, that was so much cooler to me than Quailman.
Which one was Smash Adams?
Smash Adams was basically the James Bond parody.
Okay.
Because when I was like, because I was, starting to get into James Bond about that time. I just thought it was so cool because he had on like the white tux, and that was when he finally got Patty, in his like his adventures and this sort of stuff. Because she was always like the love interest, like the red dress or whatever it was, and you always had like the Bond-like villain with Roger. It was great. It was just great. This great escapism, and plus I was not a fan of the Quailman look. It just looked too silly for me.
I mean, it's meant to be silly.
I know, but that was not at a time when silly was okay with me.
Add on to this with the fact that I like the overall concept, the fact that Doug is narrating his life. Like he's writing in his journal, narrating his day, narrating his feelings to us, and he's sharing his fantasies with us as well.
Right.
Where he can go and imagine, how would I handle this if I was like this?
Yeah.
We've all done that.
Oh, yeah.
And so it really helps us relate to him.
Right.
And relate to his adventures,
Or,
on a typical day.
It wasn't necessarily adventures, but just going through life, as a middle schooler and having to deal with certain things happening and what's the best way to deal with that is just not necessarily deal with it in the way that reality deals with it, but in your mind you're dealing with it in this really awesome way as a spy and all this other stuff.
But ultimately he would deal with it in reality.
Yeah.
Like he would find a solution.
Well, exactly.
Sometimes through his daydreaming, other times just through practicality.
But that's what I'm saying is that escapism would allow him to come up with a solution to a problem, or at least to give him, or in many cases, to give him the confidence he needed to deal with whatever situation he had to deal with. So, Doug's awesome in my book.
Oh no, good quality show.
Yeah.
Nostalgia Critic does not like Doug.
Well, you know what?
Because his first name is Doug. And he was taunted by the theme song.
You know what?
But again, that's his opinion. He's not the authority.
What I would like to say to him, I cannot say that on this show because it's a family show. So we're just going to leave it at that. And move on to another show.
That is far more controversial and does not fit our...
And it's definitely not a family show, actually.
No, not at all. Although,
Not yet.
It's sort of just disguised as one.
Well, the thing is, the show that we're about to talk about...
It's still important.
It's important because, A, it was an original Nick Toon, and B, somehow, this show got snuck in. I mean, it really did sneak in. I mean, this was... Somehow it got slipped in under the radar without anybody realizing that. And then all of a sudden, I probably within the first year this show was on, they're like, oh, we shouldn't have done that. People like it, but we shouldn't have done that.
We should have done this, but we can't stop it. So let's move its time slot to a later time and hope for the best. But we're going to keep it rolling just for a little while, but if it keeps going in a direction we don't like, we're going to have to pull it.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're talking about Ren and Stimpy. It's actually titled The Ren and Stimpy Show, but we just call it Ren and Stimpy.
Yeah. People know it as Ren and Stimpy.
It was created by John, help me out with his last name.
Crick Falusi?
Crick Falusi, we'll go with that. He created and voiced Ren.
Nice.
In 1991.
Stimpy, you idiot!
You idiot!
Sorry, I made you lose your train of thought now.
That's fine, I'm enjoying it. And it was basically based around Ren Hoek, a hyper-violent crazy Chihuahua.
Oh, yeah?
And Stimpy, or Stimpson J. Cat.
Stimpson J. Cat.
Who is quite dumb.
Yes.
And quite large.
Yes.
And a cat.
Yes. Right on all accounts, sir.
And their misadventures. And the thing is, unlike the other two shows where it had a very clear premise, this one didn't.
Yeah.
This one was kind of, I wouldn't say it's the Seinfeld of its time, but it's more of, this is a show about whatever it wants. Sometimes they're in space, as space explorers. Sometimes they're a dog and cat in a house.
I think the best way to describe the premise of the show is it's kind of like Freakazoid, where it's random except on drugs.
And even the thing is, even though Freakazoid is random, it still had its own setting where it had a consistency.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Ren and Stimpy does not.
It had the randomness of Freakazoid, but that's what I'm saying. Like, it was just thrown everywhere and completely off the wall. Everyone wants a log, you're gonna get it, log, 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 new from Bueno!
Oh, and of course, since we're skipping right to the songs...
No, I want to go buy a log.
Happy, joy, joy, happy, happy, joy, joy,
happy, happy, joy, joy, happy, happy, joy, joy, happy, happy, joy, joy, happy, happy, joy, joy, happy, happy, joy, joy, joy! Do-do-do-do-do.
I'll teach your grandmother to suck eggs. I don't think you're happy enough. I told you I'd shoot, but you wouldn't believe me. Why wouldn't you believe me? Thank you, Stinky Whizzle-Teats.
Yes.
That was his name.
That was his name, in fact.
And that's a testament of what they were able to sneak in.
And, well, you know...
By the way, and that was also...
That's just the tip of the iceberg.
Really is. This show was known for its off-color humor, its toilet humor, its surrealist humor, which I really liked, by the way. Dark humor, which is good in its own rights, but also it slipped in more than its fair share of innuendo.
Well, here's what my mother did not like about the show.
Yeah, my mom wouldn't let me watch this show.
In fact, I don't think any mother with a good sense of sanity would let their children watch this show. It wasn't the sense of humor that my mom didn't like. It was actually the artwork itself. She found the show to be too graphic. And as I have recently seen, she was right. The show was way too graphic. In some of the depictions of certain things, it was just too graphic for a child to be seeing. And we're not talking necessarily inappropriate, well, to be considered inappropriate, but I remember like at one point it was like the inside of like Snoopy's nose or something. But it was just drawn really graphically. And, you know, very, very well done artwork, don't get me wrong. But
it was meant to shock you.
Right.
It was meant to it was also to add to the surreal humor, the dark humor, the toilet humor at some points.
The only thing I really remember as far as like that, other than Log, because Log was awesome. And they also had Don't Pee on the Electric Fence.
Yeah.
As one of the games.
Mm-hmm.
Which, you know...
that should be common sense.
It should be common sense. Here's the interesting thing. When you actually live on property where there is an electric fence, you're like, oh, good to know. At the same time, you're like, I kind of want to try this just to see what happens.
I didn't live near an electric fence, so...
No, you didn't. Thankfully for you. What was I going to say? Oh, there was actually 2 episodes of this show. I say episodes, but they didn't really have, like, a whole long, drawn-out story. As you said, it was very random. You know, but one of the little mini-stories they did was, like, I think Ren and Stimpy, like, get sucked into a black hole. And, like, there's, like they're on the other end of it, and there's literally, like, it's just all white and there's nothing there or something. I do vaguely remember that. That's all that I remember from that part.
Kind of to tag up on that, I do remember they had a couple Space Explorer episodes. Like, one dealt with Ren going insane just from the long-term journey.
Yeah.
And he ends up tricking Stimpy into pushing the big red button. Do not touch this big red button. This shiny, giant red button. Do not touch it. And, of course, Stimpy does, and it destroys everything.
Yeah.
And the other one was the fact that they got stranded on a distant planet, and the planet is making them mutate continuously. And they try to get off, and, you know, the gag of it is, okay, we can get on this bus. We don't have exact change. And they only take exact change. So, well, we can either just stay here and keep mutating until our cells break down, or, Stimpy, what do you have any ideas? Yes, we can implode. Which is, you know, he demonstrated by sucking in his gut.
I think I do vaguely remember that one.
And then as they're imploding, they've set themselves to implode. You know, the gag is like, oh, hey, look at this. I had a pocket full of change the whole time. And Ren was about to hit him, and then they implode.
Implode, yeah. Actually, I do remember seeing that episode because I had to ask my dad what implode meant. He's like, well, it's the opposite of explode. I was like, well, that makes sense.
That's how they explained it in the show, actually. It's one of the few episodes I still have in my computer.
Oh.
That I downloaded off iTunes, just because I remember the show and episode. I like this one.
I do remember the horse character. I thought he was rather interesting.
He was a pure cameo character only.
Well, you know what? That was a cameo character I enjoyed. Because it was a talking horse.
I remember there was a mud skipper at one point.
Okay. It sounds
Muddy the Mud Skipper?
Yeah, Muddy the Mud Skipper. Okay.
There you go. And he called everybody a bum. It's like, you're a bum!
You know, it'd be interesting to see him and Wolverine interact. Hey, bub. Hey, bum.
Well, Wolverine, you know, for a while was technically homeless. You know, he's a trucker just kind of roaming around, so he'd be right.
And then Wolverine just stabs him and goes, look, fish on a stick.
Oh, but it's muddy. So, show kind of had a reputation going along with it because we kind of let off the fact that this was not really. Yeah, it was it was rated for kids, but the more it was exposed on air, the more people realized this probably shouldn't have been.
Yeah.
And the creator actually got fired for it.
Oh, wow.
In 1992, I don't have the title of the episode,
Okay.
but at some point, Ren and Snippy, because they're animals, in this particular episode, they have an owner.
Right.
And near the end of the episode, again, I don't remember the exact context, but I think it was just the fact that Ren doesn't like him. He beats him with an oar. Now, if he just hit him a couple times with an oar, we've seen people get hit with mallets and all this, but it didn't stop there.
Oh, okay.
It was a prolonged beating.
Oh.
And it went on
and
for...
It was shown. And it wasn't like, he's hitting him off stage and that sort of thing.
Right, it was shown, and it was prolonged, and it got so violent and so cruel, like, it basically was gone to the point of cruelty. It aired once.
Oh, wow.
And since then, the episode has either been not aired at all, or that part has been cut off. But Nickelodeon was so mad, so disgusted, so not pleased, they fired him. They're like, you're done.
And they have every right to be. Actually, I can't believe, it must, it's one of those things. It's sad to see people actually trying to put that into something that's designed for kids. It makes you wonder what they were thinking.
Well, part of the thing is, I think John was trying to push boundaries, because he was saying his thing was, because 1991, Batman is not there yet. A lot of things are still kind of in their infancy. He's like, everything is kind of cutesy. We've got Rugrats, too cutesy. Doug, not hard enough.
Yeah.
We got Tiny Toons going around. Too cutesy for kids. Let's get something out there. Let's get something different. Yeah. And he did, and for the most part, he had good stuff, but then he went too far.
Yeah.
So in 1992, Bob Camp takes over.
Okay.
And for the most part, he does a pretty good job. Bob Camp was also one of the voices, I think, for Stimpy.
Okay.
And for the most part, a lot of people think, from 1992 on, the show had a decline in its overall quality because they kind of softened it up a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, it still had its true to form, violence, its off-color humor, but it was toned down a little bit. Ended up being canceled in 96. It did go to another network.
It ran longer than I thought it did.
It did ran for a while, and it did get briefly picked up on MTV. They had a short...
Yeah, I do remember that.
They had a short-run series, but it didn't have as good as a reception.
Well, that's because you could never watch it. I remember I was like, oh, sweet, Ren and Stimpy's coming back on.
Well, I mean, it came on long after its 96 run, so by that we could have watched it at that point. But it also wasn't good. They also had some direct-to-DVD, direct-to-download, which was more adult-friendly.
Right.
So they kind of expanded on the adult themes for Ren and Stimpy, because if we're going to go vulgar, let's just go all out vulgar.
Yeah.
Which they did.
Well, and the thing is, this show has a perfect home waiting for its reception right now. It's called Adult Swim on Cartoon Network.
Right.
That's where it belongs. Problem was, there was no Adult Swim at this time. In fact, there was no Cartoon Network at this time.
Right.
And so they were trying to push boundaries, and like you said, I want to say that Ren and Stimpy was originally shown in the morning with Rugrats and Doug, and then got moved to Saturday night.
I think it was.
Because I remember it was part of Snick, but I don't remember whether or not it ever played in the morning or not.
I think it did briefly, since this was Nickelodeon's premiere of big stuff. They're like, because they came out fast and furious with this stuff to get everyone's attention.
Right.
But once time went on, they're like, oh, Ren and Stimpy's a bit much. Let's move it on to a later time period.
Yeah, that way not as many kids are going to watch it.
Obviously the kids who stay up late, who probably shouldn't, which I know on occasion. Sorry, Mom, I did.
We all did.
It still had its... and even today, it still has a cult-like following of people who are diehard Ren and Stimpy fans. And
it's not so much that they're diehard friends, but it was one of those things. It was that thing you weren't allowed to do, but you had a guilty pleasure of it. And now as an adult, you're like, hey, I can watch it, and it reminds me of back then when I couldn't watch it. Now I can.
And I had to be sneaky, try to sneak it on the slide.
And now you're like, wow, this is really good.
And the thing, to its credit, I don't know so much how much Rugrats and Doug hold up, because they were kind of tame.
Yeah.
Ren and Stimpy still holds up. It's still a funny show. And, as adults, we can get more of its humor. Right. Again, it is still off-color on some of it, so, depending on your taste, buyer beware in certain cases, but it still holds up. It's still funny. Well, and some of its surrealist humor is also interesting and funny. Like, the fact that they had Happy, Happy, Joy, Joy.
Yeah.
And how crazy that episode was. And then you had other episodes which are even darker. They have really dark episodes. I can't name any offhand, although there are just some dark themes they have, where like insanity for Ren, or just the fact that he's sometimes really spiteful and evil. Yeah. To Stimpy, who's good-natured and simple.
Right.
they did a lot of stuff, and the thing is, like, this show is important because without this show, you would have never gotten shows like Beavis and Butthead, or more importantly, for some, South Park.
Well, Beavis and Butthead came out before Ren and Stimpy.
No, it came out after.
Oh, it did?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
So, I mean, really, this show is, if you like Beavis and Butthead, you have this show to thank. Because
I thought it was the other way around, actually. Okay.
Ren and Stimpy came first.
All right. Feather in the cap for Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah.
Because oddly enough, while my mom did not like Ren and Stimpy, she actually rented me the Beavis and Butthead Do America movie.
I've yet to see that movie.
It was actually pretty funny.
Oh, I know it is.
And the thing
I've seen bits of it.
And the thing is, that was one of those shows where, growing up, she would never let me watch it, and then she just brings it home on a here, I rented this for you. I'm like, who are you and what have you done with my mother? This is awesome. Because I was like in early high school, I think, at the time. I was totally not expecting it.
Diggies are cool. Fire. That's nothing. That's cool.
Okay. Oh. You say so.
It's not a bad butthead, actually.
Oh.
Oh, man.
That's cool. But anyway, where are we at?
So that's kind of, that's Ren and Stimpy for you. Do you have anything you remember from Ren and Stimpy that you want to add?
You mean other than Log?
Other than Log. I mean, they parodied a lot of cool stuff.
Thing is, that's honestly all I really remember.
I had a video game Ren and Stimpy once.
It was mostly because it's not so much that like there was any one particular reason or why I don't remember the show very much, but I remember watching the show. I know that I only saw a few episodes, but honestly, I think it's because when I look back, there were so many shows that I watched at that time between Rugrats and Doug and the Warner Brothers cartoon. And actually, at the same time, I was still watching the Disney cartoons. There was just so much. Like,
so kind of just blurs together?
Yeah, it really does. I mean, even with the Batman animated series, I mean, it wasn't until recently when I got the DVDs, I was like, oh, I don't remember this episode at all. Even though I've probably saw it, it was one of those things where unless I saw a specific episode at least 3 or 4 times, I didn't remember it. They all just kind of blurred together. Like, I'll remember the tone of Ren and Stimpy, I'll remember certain bits, but as far as anything, other than Log and the horse character, and Ren being Ren and Stimpy being Stimpy, I really don't remember much. Which is unfortunate because it's just how it is. But my memory's not as good as yours when it comes to details like that.
Well, I don't remember everything in perfect detail. Like, I couldn't tell you certain characters or...
Well, no, but I mean,
I remember...
You remember main themes better than I do, main ideas.
Yeah. I mean, I remember there was Powdered Toast Man.
Don't remember that.
He was interesting.
That just reminds me of...
he flew backwards. Like, he would have the Superman pose, but he would be going backwards.
Okay, why is Powdered Toast Man flying?
Because he's a superhero.
I thought he was just like a piece of toast.
No.
Okay.
He's a superhero.
What does he look like?
Well, his head's a piece of powdered toast, but his body is a human.
That'd be doable for Dragon Con.
I mean, super muscular and, like, ridiculously so, but that's what he is.
Get a muscle suit. Powdered Toast Man!
You were almost kind of on the money for his theme.
Oh, okay. Well, do you remember his theme at all?
It's like, I think it's just more extended, like, Powdered Toast Man!
Okay.
And he was weird. He like his superpowers were just strange.
Like what? What were they? Cooks your bread in less than 5 seconds?
No, but he could, make your breakfast better.
Okay.
I mean, part of his power, like, as being a breakfast person, oriented person, was he would, like, because his head was powdered toast. If you had plain toast, he would scrape off part of his head on your toast and make it powdered toast better. But he also had weird superpowers, like, look.
Not that that's a dandruff analogy or anything.
Who knows? Like, he'd have, like, weird, like, look at my bicep of the future or something. I don't know. He had weird powers. Like, my magic powder can do this. Like, I honestly don't remember. That's details I can't remember.
Yeah. Either way, that definitely sounds like a show we need to go back and try to watch. And find first, I guess.
I have a couple episodes.
Oh, okay, you do? I wasn't sure if it was out on DVD or not.
It is. They've got the full seasons out on DVD.
All of them?
Yeah, even
nice.
like it's full season out on DVD plus the MTV one.
Does that include the episode you mentioned that got the guy fired?
I'm not sure. It may include some of the band. I mean, I think there's more than one band episode that are not seen. It may or may not include that. I'm not 100% sure. But you could probably find it on YouTube.
Yeah.
Most of the band episodes that we may get to or remember are probably on YouTube.
It's probably true. Unless they can't find them. And if it's not on YouTube, it doesn't exist.
Just the most part.
Yes, that's true. So, after Ren and Stimpy... What happened?
What happened was they decided, we're doing good. Let's keep it going. Let's make some more shows. And so they decided to expand their lineup. And I think, Matt, that's another show. Because we're kind of running long, sir.
All right. Well,
so we should have a part 2.
Okay.
We haven't had a part 2 in a while.
Stay tuned for part 2. Same Freaka channel, same Freaka time.
After these messages, we'll be right back. Freaks out.
Freaks in, freaks out.
The content of the Freakacast is copyright to Andrew Felson and Matthew Puetz. All characters belong to their respective owners. A full list of music used will be provided on the website. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Copyright 2012.
Hello, boys and girls. This is your old pal, Streaky Whistle Sheets. And this is a song about a whale.
No, this is a song about being happy.
That's right. It's the Happy, Happy, Joy, Joy song.
Happy, happy, joy, joy, happy, happy, joy, joy. Happy, happy, joy, joy, happy, happy, joy, joy. Happy, happy, joy, joy, happy, happy, joy, joy. Happy, happy, joy, joy, joy. Happy, 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 joy, joy. Happy, 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 joy, joy.
I don't think you're happy
I'll
enough.
teach you to be happy.
I'll teach Grandma
To suck it now. Boys and girls, let's try again. You ain't the granddaddy of our lives. The little critters of nature. They don't know that they're ugly. That's very funny. Happy, happy, joy, joy. 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 Happy, happy, joy, joy, joy. Happy, joy, happy, joy, happy, joy. You ain't the granddaddy of our lives. The little critters of nature. They don't know that they're ugly. That's very funny. Happy, joy, happy, joy. Happy, happy,
like a fly marrying a bumblebee. I told you to shoot, but you didn't believe me. Why didn't you believe me?
refuse to touch that strange bean curd. I wouldn't eat it, wow, but it ain't you. E-I-E-O, killer tofu. E-I-E-O, killer tofu. I eat my sugar cereal, but it makes my teeth bacterial. E-I-E-O.